call the meetings to order. I appreciate everybody coming. We actually do have 3 meetings scheduled tonight. So we'll call to order. The first meeting will be the revenue neutral rate hearing. Jessica Nolan, Chief Financial Officer.
Okay, perfect. Okay, presented a couple different times on the revenue neutral rate. We are going to exceed it this year. So initially I came to you guys and said, I set it at 50 mils. After finalizing the budget, it came out to just below 50 at the 49.561. So total taxes levied last year were just a hair over 22 million, with this year projected at the 23.4 million. Overall mill increase is the 2.973 mils, and then equates to a tax increase of 1.348 million. So a little bit lower than I initially presented to you guys, but going back again to what last year's original adoption was at the 49.4, it's a minimal increase of the 0.161, but looks larger just because of the deadline being missed last year. So that's all I have on the revenue neutral rate.
Any questions for her? Are there any patrons who wish to address the board in reference to revenue neutral rate? I would. Please, just as I asked, just state your name, please, if you would come up here so we can hear you.
My name is Steve Slager. I moved here a year ago, left in 1967. Town's changed a lot. Taxes haven't. Every one of them puts this tax levy on us. No matter what it is, whether it's needs or wants, they're going to get it. And they're killing the future of our children. Your children. My children have grown up, but I have grandchildren. This property tax keeps going up. They're not going to be able to buy a home. Most people can't now. And down the road, they're going to be living with their parents. You want your kids living with you guys? I don't think so. But you need to think about that. My property tax went up $27,700 increase on my house value in 1 year. Added all of them, down the column, percentage of everybody put out. That's over 81% increase on my taxes. I'm retired. I don't have another $120,000 to $140,000 in 10 years to pay taxes in this community. It's out of hand. What do? I'm 74 years old. I'm gonna go get a job. I didn't retire to go get a job, but I may have to. Will you guys ever retire at this rate? No. And they're not going by UPAC, the US code on doing taxes on everyone. They're using the UCAD. UCAD is totally fraudulent. And in Missouri, we've already taken 2 counties out, and the county and the cities have to refund the taxpayers' money, and they don't have it. In Texas, they've already done 3 lawsuits, and there's a 4th one up. They won all 3 others. Just have it all over the United States. It's just not here. It's nationwide. And there's a lot of states that are starting this, and they're gonna fight the property tax. There's things we can cut back on, there's things you cannot cut back on. The needs, that's one thing, but wants is another thing. And I hear you're gonna close a school. Well, I would think those kids staying in that school in smaller classrooms would actually learn a little bit more. And they're gonna move to another school. Probably those kids have grown up together and in that school, they know everybody, they get along, they go to another school. That's pretty bad for a young child. And that's why I look at it. But, I don't know what there is to do, or whether you're just stuck in a donut hole. I don't know, but I'd like to know what the wants and needs are. And I was at county commissioners, they were very understanding. And they understand what's happened in this community way above any other one I've been to. And this is the third one. It's just overwhelming. But I guess they have to find some money somewhere. My kid's been out of school. My oldest is 51 years old, 52 years old. And I do have grandchildren, they're out of public schools. Now they're in college, and that's expensive. But I've paid taxes to the school since 1973. And I gained when my grandkids were in. But today at my age, it does me no good. They just keep taxing me. And I don't know where to go because this is all over the United States. But you need to really do some serious thinking about what you're doing for the future of these young children, even the ones in college. There's 37% of 144 million homesteads in this country that cannot pay their mortgage or their taxes. They're maxed out on credit cards. And everybody says inflation. Well, that's possible. This creates inflation. It's not going to go away. Everything's pretty much dictated on what the tax entities do. And a house value, that's what it does. It creates inflation. You jump somebody's house, you're got inflation. And we're not a manufacturing base anymore. It's all been taken away. So, 70% of this economy is the people that buy things. Walmart, wherever, cars, everything. They're not going to do it anymore. And in fact, it's really backed off. And there's a lot of business going out of business because nobody's walking in the door. Good way to kill the economy too, isn't it? So that's what I have to say. And I thank you very much for letting me speak. Have a good day.
Any others? Are there any board members who wish to speak? I would entertain a motion to close the revenue neutral rate hearing.
Mr. President, I move that the revenue neutral rate hearing for the 2024-2025 budget be closed.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded to close the revenue neutral rate hearing for 24-25 budget. We take a vote on that.
Yeah, you can vote regular on it.
Okay.
No, this is roll call. On the closing?
Let's just roll call it just so we can make sure we're right. All right.
Okay, Robin Bergkamp? Yes. Andy Farmeyer.
Aye.
Jackie Jiggett. Aye. Nathan Hake.
Here.
Mark Hind.
Yes.
Randy Ralston.
Yes.
John Weiss.
Yes.
Motion passed.
I'd entertain a motion to adopt the resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate, tax rate for the 24-25 school year.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education adopt the resolution to exceed the revenue neutral tax rate for the 2024-2025 school year.
Is there a second?
One second.
Any discussion? It's been moved and seconded to approve the revenue neutral rate to exceed the revenue neutral rate for the 24-25 school year.
Take the vote again. Nathan Hake.
Yes.
Mark Rude. Or, I'm sorry. The wrong name on it. Mark Hind.
Yes.
Robin Bergkamp. Yes. Randy Ralston.
Yes.
Andy Farmeyer.
Yes.
Becky Jiggett. Yes. John Weiss.
Yes.
Motion passed.
I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution to adopt the LB percentage.
We moved that to the regular meeting.
Oh, take that back. Okay, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. So move and second to adjourn. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes. Meeting is adjourned. Call to order the next meeting, the budget hearing for the 24-25 district budget. Yes, Canada.
Okay, just to remind you guys that we've talked about the budget 2 other meetings, but just kind of a final recap of what the final figures came out to be. Fiscal year 24 actual expenditures came out at 165.5 million with this year's budgeted expenditures of 173 million. The increase is a lot of it is due to budgeting for authority, not necessarily what we plan to spend, but to have that authority, especially in capital outlay, so that those funds can be available if so needed. And just as an example, we spent 5.49 million in capital outlay last year, but the budget has to where we can spend 13.4 million if needed. So it's just so that we don't have to republish if we need those funds in an emergency. Just to touch on assessed valuation again, overall, our evaluation went up, but because of the TIF funding, the benefit to us actually decreased. And if you remember, that's around 34 million, which impacts a mill around 33,000. General assessed valuation did go down. And then the mills there at the bottom, what you just saw in the R&R hearing is just the increase up to the 49.561. Some of the priorities when I built the budget, to create competitive compensation and benefit packages to recruit and retain quality employees that can provide the best education possible for the students of USD-457. Continue the implementation of evidence-based programs identified through the building needs assessments to improve student outcomes and student growth. Focus on supporting staff to have the knowledge and resources to make these programs impactful, whether that's funding for professional development or the supplies needed, or compensating staff for additional time outside of their contract. To maintain consistent mill rates. Since fiscal year 15, USD 457 has averaged a mill rate of 49.014. And we know inflation's gone up quite a bit. This year, the proposed increase would have only been the 0.161 over what was intended and approved last year, had the deadline of the R&R been met, which due to that deadline not being met, it actually saved taxpayers around $1.2 million last year. Some things I thought worth noting that I felt like were impactful considerations. The increase for a student's base funding is going to increase by $290. So currently each student is worth a minimum of $53.78 without any weightings. Some students will more than double that, but that's the absolute minimum. If they qualify for at-risk funding, that's another 0.484 in weighting, and bilinguals another 0.395. Then we also get additional funding for CTE and transportation and a couple other things. Kind of a negative impact, as mentioned before, is the decrease in assessed valuation and the value of our mills. Our bond payments, just due to the amortization schedule that was implemented, that we will have a $188,000 increase in our bond payments. We're going to absorb 4 positions that were previously funded through ESSER. Those positions were a teacher, a counselor, a behavior specialist, and a social worker. So bringing those into general funding.
Could you explain to them what ESSER is so they know?
Yeah, so ESSER is basically the COVID money that the district received, a little over $12 million. So the plan was originally written in 2021. And ESSER has now gone away. It had to be expended by September 30th. So those positions that were previously funded with those dollars now have to be absorbed by general fund or other district funding. Another negative impact was the rising cost of insurance. So we just got our health and dental renewal late last week. And it was around an 18.7% increase. So the boards has already voted to raise the fringe amount from the $830 to the $900 per month, which is around $827,000 that you guys have already allocated to offset some of those increases. And then the rest will come from employees. And then property casualty, we know that we've discussed what we need to do there. We have 2 options that could cost us up to an additional $483,000 there. Compensation packages, certified staff received around a 6.7% increase, which is the highest they've received in quite a while. So just, having to financially budget for those things came into play as well. High quality recruitments, we're bringing in a lot of high quality staff, which means they're just a little bit more expensive, but for the betterment of our students. Enrollment TBD on 9/20. So as it sits right now, we're looking like we're going to be pretty minimal change. Whether that's up or down, we don't know quite yet. So that'll determine whether that's a positive or a negative impact on the budget. We are going to see some federal funding decreases, not only with the elimination of ESSERs, but Title I and Title IV funding are also decreasing a little bit for us. So those costs will, again, have to be absorbed somewhere else. And then the last thing, the LOB maximum percentage that the state allows is 32% without special petition. So that's where we are at. But just keeping in mind that 62% of our LOB is state aid. So 38% is what's coming from local taxpayers. So with all that, the budget's just ready for you guys to consider for adoption, unless there's any questions I can answer.
Are there any patrons that wish to address the board on reference to the budget? Please.
Do you guys receive a detailed budget before, or do you only rely on the highlights?
Can you come up here
Oh, yeah.
and state your name, please? We have to have it for the record, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jackie Timpson,
Thank you.
and my question regarding the budget is, do you guys receive a detailed budget, or do you rely solely on highlights and questions brought from administration?
Yeah, we can.
You guys do?
Yes.
Okay, That was my
Line by line.
line by line. Okay, that was my question.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Any other questions or comments? Please.
My name is Honey Coash, and I was just curious, who are the super qualified staff that you guys have hired, and what is the cost difference that you're paying? Is that in visas?
Or can we answer? Not supposed to answer. I don't think I'm supposed to. I'm sorry. From this.
As a staff member, I also want to ask, what would then qualify us, your locals who have committed to the district, for this qualification of superior educators that have more money? My next question is, if you continue on this path, who will those high quality educators be? That's all I have to say.
Please, please come forward.
My name is Rupert Johnson. My question is, of this budget, how much money was set aside or allocated for all the international teachers that came from overseas to fill in the positions that were not filled?
Any others? Do we have any board members who wish to speak? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Rebecca Swender, pretty simple. I think we're all kind of whispering back there. Do you guys have a way that you will respond to these questions? I mean, was somebody responsible for answering them, and is there like a place where these answers will be?
So this is public comment, so really, we're not supposed to respond to those. Yes, you can get all the answers you need going through the administration office.
Yeah, all right, thanks.
Yeah. Any others? Any board members wish to speak? I will real quick. I know they've worked really hard on the budget, and I know the HR department has done a really, really good job of recruiting high-quality teachers. And I think if you reach out to HR and to talk to Drew, you'll be pretty surprised at the quality of teachers that we were able to hire this year. Many teachers that exceeded what we've hired in the past. So I think there's some good information out there for you guys, and just reach out to the HR department and they'll help you out, okay? I'd entertain a motion to close the budget hearing.
So moved.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the budget hearing.
Yes, sir, so sorry.
Are we approving the budget?
You'll take action during the regular meeting.
It'll be during the regular.
All right, I just want to make sure it's good and stuff.
Been moved and seconded to close the budget hearing. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same. Motion carried. Take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Move in second to adjourn the hearing for the budget. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Meeting's adjourned. Okay, now we'll call to order the regular Board of Education meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please take a moment for silent reflection. Thank you. Start off item C, meetings and note. Board faculty meeting, Horace Good Middle School, September 18th, 2024 at 7:20 a.m. 4 or more board members may be in attendance. Board faculty meeting, Kenneth Henderson Middle School, September 25th at 7:15 a.m. 4 or more board members may also be in attendance. And board faculty meeting at Florence Wilson Elementary School, October 2nd, 7:30 a.m. 4 or more board members may be in attendance. Okay, we'll move to item D, approval of agenda with the following amendments.
Mr. President, I move we approve tonight's agenda with the following amendments. Item D1, additional certified and classified personnel actions for consideration under item F3. Item D2 is addition, add item G1, unfinished business approval of a resolution to adopt the LOB percentage for the 2024-2025 school year. Item D3 is to add item G2 under unfinished business for the approval of the 2024-2025 budget. Item D4 is to move item J1, confidential data relating to financial affairs or trade secrets of corporations, partnerships, trusts, and individual proprietorships to J4. Item D5 is to add item J1, consultation with attorney for the body or agency which would be deemed privileged in an attorney-client relationship. Item D6 is move item J3, which is confidential data relating to financial affairs or trade secrets of corporations, partnerships, trusts, and individual proprietorships to section 2, item J5. And lastly, item D7 is to add item J3, consultation with an attorney for the body or agency which would be deemed privileged in an attorney-client relationship.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda with the following amendments that were stated. Any further questions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. On to item E, delegations, public comments. We have a few. What I'll ask is, I will call your name, you come up. You do have 5 minutes, okay? So try not to cut you off, but you do have 5 minutes, and then we'll move on to the next. The first one, if I butcher your name, I so apologize. Bexler Stover? Bexler, sorry.
Hello, my name is Bexley Stover. I'm 8 years old and Mrs. Ford's third grade class at J.D. Barker Elementary School. My siblings Jet, Jagger, and Elliot are in kindergarten this year. also at Jenny Becker Elementary School. Our parents chose to build our house when I was 3, so my siblings and I could go to Jenny Becker. I want to approach the board today to urge you to keep our country schools open, and I thought what better way than from a current student. Jenny Becker encourages students to work hard in all that we do and to be involved as much as possible. A few ways I have been involved over the past 3 years is by being on student council, Star Student, helping with our yearly food drive, fundraising for the Cancer Center, and Ronald McDonald, just to name a few things. My mom is also active in the PTO. Once I heard about the possible schools closing last spring, I started to do my own research to inform you, the board, about why Jenny Becker is one of the best schools in the district. The gifted program has given me the ability and knowledge to do research projects. What I learned through my research is that Jenny Becker is ranked number 2 in Garden City Schools District and ranked number 181 overall in Kansas. I also took the time to see how Plymouth ranks because I have a lot of friends that go to Plymouth, and I know they love their school as much as I do. Plymouth ranks number 3 in Garden City Schools District and number 254 overall in Kansas. I don't understand why the board would want to close down 2 of the top 3 schools in the district. Can this be explained to me and all the children that this would affect? Given the facts I just presented to you, along with our school involvement in the community, I am begging you to listen to our community, listen to me as a student, and not close down our country schools. Thank you.
Okay, Megan Ford.
Hello, I'm going to begin by quoting one of our country's most famous leaders, homegrown in Kansas. Dwight D. Eisenhower once said, "You don't lead by hitting people over the head. That is assault, not leadership." With that being said, I think most of us feel like we've been hit over the head or blindsided with this steamrolled approach to revamping our district. My name is Megan Ford. I've been here before. I'm a teacher in this district. I have 3 kids in this district. Today, I want to remind you of who we are as a district, straight from the website. Okay, Garden City Public Schools, where everyone leads. That is our promise. Straight from our website, here are our core values. First, we demand excellence. We are committed to achieving excellence. We set the standard in all that we do, knowing that we have the potential to be excellent if we remain relentless and unwavering. Second, we cultivate community. We believe that true leadership starts with appreciating and valuing diverse backgrounds and perspectives of our students, staff, and community. Together, through strong, authentic relationships, we can create a school district where everyone leads. Third, we promote character. We believe in the power of ownership. Every member of our school community is expected to take ownership of their actions and responsibilities. From students to administrators, leaders at all levels are called to embody integrity in all that they do. Fourth, we inspire courage. We believe that leadership requires risk. We will build an environment where students and staff are empowered to take risks, embrace challenges, and persevere. Together, we'll foster a culture of courage and unwavering perseverance. So you already know where I stand on the closure of our schools and the district's plan. I don't agree. We know now we know even more than we did in the spring, thanks to a few community members who have done research on our behalf. I am a product of Garden City Public Schools. You have inspired courage in me, and that is why I can stand before you today. Now I'm here to ask you to be courageous, and I am here to encourage you. Our community cannot expect perfection. However, we should try to live out our values. We need a leader. That should be our priority. We need to build and mend relationships in the district. Broken relationships within the district and in the community hinder our ability to thrive. With strong leadership and relationships moving forward, together we will, quote, foster a culture of courage and unwavering perseverance as our core values state. We demand excellence of our board and administration, just as you demand of your employees. Thus, we expect you to embody integrity in all that you do, as our core value states. When we screw up, let's take ownership, as our core values state. Let's apologize and ask for forgiveness. This is an expectation I have of my students as well. We will give you grace. USD-457 ought not be ashamed of these mistakes. Rather, our mistakes are necessary for the growth along this journey, if indeed we learn from them. Garden City has always strived to be innovative, even to the point of rushing into decisions without thorough investigation and to the detriment of our district. Today, I ask you to be innovative in that we will be set apart because we demand excellence, cultivate community, promote character, and inspire courage. Let's not try to please people, but the one who created us and will judge us on the leaders we choose to be. You have been put in these positions in these seats for a time such as this. It is no mistake that you or I or any of these audience members are here today. I implore you, USD-457, to be set apart because you demonstrate integrity. I challenge you to, quote, create a school district where everyone thrives as stated by our core values. I expect you will consider and reflect on all that you have been given, including the community's voice. Board of Education, the community wants you to fulfill your promises as you campaigned on. I implore you to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. The community is watching, students are watching, your employees are watching. So let's raise up the future of Garden City through leaders who set an example of the values we want to instill into our children.
Megan, I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's
For 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Chris Coash. Coash.
Thank you, Captain Halston. Good evening, my name is Chris Coash. I am in my 20th year as a resident of Garden City and of serving the community in the area ambulance industry. I have 4 Jenny Barker kids, 3 current, 1 graduate, and I am married to the most incredible first grade teacher at that school, Miss Honey Coash. First up, I'd like to address a couple concerns with district leadership. As a leader in our region, in school construction, designs, and bond passages, the Hutton Corporation is one of the area's top go-to resources. As the Western Kansas leader of the Hutton Corporation, and also as our school president, I believe Mr. Farmeyer may have a conflict of interest in the school reconfiguration matter being considered today. These kind of projects being proposed involve a lot of players. The Hutton Corporation, in all likelihood, will be involved in some way, whether it be consulting, engineering, construction admin, or the work itself. At minimum, they'll put in a bid. USD-457 has policies concerning conflict of interest, and Kansas Statute 75-4301 addresses conflict of interest matters for school boards as well. I ask for consideration by Mr. Farmeyer and by the board in upholding ethical and legal standards and having Mr. Farmeyer abstain from voting on the school reconfiguration matter being presented today. Reconfiguration changes being proposed are big and with big consequences for our future community members, our community development, and our economy. Let's face it, families drive economies and make wholly invested decisions based on their schools, just as Mrs. Overwood pointed out. Our school literacy needs to be fully invested in the future of our community as well. We need forward-looking leadership who will consider the needs of our community over a scale of decades, not a few short years, as all this research seems to drop off. The school needs a superintendent and upper leadership who are invested in the district's success and in the long haul. Respectfully, I have to say that a leader with a few mere months left in the organization is not in a very good position to be involved in drafting plans with such far-reaching implications. I ask for consideration from Dr. Dominguez and from Dr. Dominguez's full attention and energy be focused on providing excellence in the day-to-day operation of USD-457 for the remainder of his time here, and leave future planning to those more invested. I offer my full confidence, support, and prayer to this organization, and that we will find and/or develop leadership who are in tune with the needs of the community, attack every issue with constructiveness, supportiveness, and transparency, and are in it for the long haul. I ask that the administration and the board consider hitting the brakes on these proposed changes until we have installed committed leadership. When I walk into Jenny Barker School, I'm proud to see that banner on the wall, that one that says, Best Schools in America, U.S. News and World Report 2019. I'm proud of the fact that when I look at state assessments for the district, I see Jenny Barker consistently at the top. And I'm proud of the fact that I see trophies brought home from the world stage by little old Jenny Barker's robotics program. None of this happened by accident. These are the fruits of hard work of our staff, our students, our organizations, and our parents, all whom are in the drive behind supporting this very valuable asset. What baffles me is the apparent and emergent desire of the administration to discard Jenny Barker, Clymel, and Gertrude Walker, all valuable assets in their own right. Just what happened and what's the big emergency? All this started as a boundary redraw process. Now it's a drive to close 3 schools. Does the district have stress points? Absolutely. Are there emergent needs to close schools? Absolutely not. Are there solutions that are better that have been suggested yet untested? Absolutely. Is the district in an emergent financial crisis? Absolutely not. The resources and community support exist to keep these schools open. We've seen numbers floated around like 1.5 million to fix Jenny Barker, 1.7 to fix Clymel. These are all cost numbers put out, but we're missing the benefit number put out. 1.5 million goes a long ways to Jenny Barker. There may be decades before it needs anything big. Have we considered that? Have we considered the cost and the readiness of these buildings that we want to move students into?
Chris, I'm sorry to interrupt that. Sure, perhaps 5 minutes. Thank you. Honey Coash?
My name is Honey Coash, and I just want to thank my husband and whoever else has come up here and shown extreme courage in the face of a board and an administration that does not seem to care what we think. So I really wanted to finish his points because I am very proud of the man that I'm married to, and all these points are very valid and they should be heard. So when we talk about the drive by this administration has been described as a steamroller approach by RSP Associates, and the timelines described as an Olympic sprinter pace, it looks like actually a steamroller coming at an Olympic sprinter race from our perspective. I mean, that's how crazy it looks. And I hope everybody is listening, because I don't really, see that whole body listening that I look for in my classroom. All of this inspires much deeper thinking into the matter as to what the true motives are of an administrator with one foot out the door. It inspires deeper thinking into conflicting stories, such as how the public was told there would be no staff reductions, yet recently revealed internal communications cite savings in excess of 900,000 from staff attrition. So for the boundary redraw, we haven't tried yet, we haven't tested. Have we looked at Chapel Heights growth, other schools just as close, our 23-24 enrollment chart? Jenny Barker is 99%, and Florence Wilson at 58%. Florence Wilson is closer to Chapel Heights development than JB. Take a slice of JB to go to Florence Wilson. There are so many other aspects of this, and we just get the bits and pieces that you have allowed us common folk to see. As far as Jenny Wilson, 102%, neighboring Alta Brown, 55%. Gertrude Walker, 90%, Edith Sharman, 54%. How does a boundary study turn into this implosion of a district? Because that's what it is. I know several teachers who will pull themselves and their students from this district, their children, if those closings go forward. I don't understand how there is an aim at hiring high quality educators when we don't have a relationship built of trust, of respect, or anything else with your current educators that I believe are high quality educators as well. If you would like to come up with a plan and talk to us about moving forward, having incentive for teachers to come here, and I'm not talking, we're gonna pay your visas for you to come and teach here. What kind of credentials that brought forth, I don't know. But we have people here, hometown people. I changed my career to become a teacher because I didn't think it could get any worse for teachers. I didn't think it could get any worse for staff, but I wanted to be there for the kids. You have a lot of families that buy their houses to be in a certain school boundary, and they're gonna be upset if we redraw boundaries, absolutely. But let's not rob Peter to pay Paul. If you wanna pay teachers more and you wanna reduce class sizes, how is closing schools gonna do that? Projected enrollments, all the birth rates, no accounting for influx of residents, no accounting for economic development because we just ignore what FICO says. The recent building tours, and I love this part, this is my favorite. Posted on the Jenny Barker Facebook page in the morning of September 9th, and then changed, edited, and reposted that same day on the district website with different information. You guys have lied to us. You have not been transparent. And I want to know who made that decision? You know what the difference is between these two graphics? A school that was going to be closed and now on the other paper it's not. Who made that decision? Where was that vote?
I'm sorry, that's your time. That's the thing.
Hi, my name is Samantha Payne. I was on the subcommittee last spring, and I spoke at a board meeting last spring, and I've continued to stay on top of what has been publicly put out by the board and district regarding the upcoming vote for our schools. I am approaching my time today with questions, comments, and some concerns that I have after talking with school staff and community members. The first is the rush timing of the vote. I understand that the board worked diligently to consider various options, but I am concerned about the timing of this vote. Originally, the plan was to vote in May and implement during the 25-26 school year. The board decided to step back and not rush the process. However, now, the only thing that's been delayed is the vote, with implementation still slated to start during the 25-26 school year. Are there specific reasons for this urgency? The impact on teachers and staff. Our teachers and staff have been praised for their dedication and adaptability, often putting the needs of students above all else. While this praise is deserved, there's almost only so much we can ask of them. The constant demand for them to handle more initiatives from the district, more responsibilities, and more changes will inevitably lead to burnout. In a district already struggling to recruit and retain quality educators, is it wise to push them further with more? We risk losing the very people we depend on to implement these changes effectively. Are we truly considering the long-term impact on our teachers and their ability to continue providing high-quality education our students deserve? Also, have building principals who will be directly impacted by the change been consulted throughout this process? To make this happen on such a short amount of time, you will need all stakeholders involved on board and ready to move once this vote takes place. The operational and logistical challenges. Closing schools and reconfiguring grades requires extensive logistical planning. This includes physical relocation of students and staff, redistribution of resources, and the reorganization of school facilities. Completing these tasks in less than a year is a significant challenge and may result in poorly executed plans that could further impact the quality of education. This rapid transition could lead to staff shortages or mismatches. Additionally, reallocated resources such as age-appropriate textbooks, furniture, playground equipment, technology to new schools in a timely manner is challenging and could lead to temporary shortages or gaps in educational materials. The disruption to students' educational experience. Elementary school years are crucial for a child's development, and frequent changes in school settings can disrupt emotional and academic stability. Closing multiple schools and reconfiguring others would force most students to transition to new environments within a year, potentially causing anxiety and affecting performance, especially for our younger children. Implementing a major grade configuration change would also add complexity, requiring teachers, students, and parents to adapt to new curricula, teaching methods, and school cultures, changes that usually need time and support to be successful. To further put this in perspective, our current fifth graders were in kindergarten when COVID hit. They had 3 straight years of disruptions to their learning with school closures, masks, social distancing, and more. They are only in their 3rd year, just starting it, with a sense of normalcy, only to potentially be disrupted again next year. The timing amidst the superintendent search. Making a significant decision while in the midst of a superintendent search raises serious concerns. Bringing a new leader into a district with so many moving parts, shuffling teachers, relocating buildings, and dealing with logistical challenges is far from ideal. Will these complexities deter top-tier candidates from applying? Shouldn't our new superintendent be able to focus on critical priorities like improving test scores, teacher recruitment and retention, and addressing the district's long-term needs, rather than being immediately burdened with the follow of a rushed plan? This approach risks creating a chaotic environment that could hinder the new leadership's effectiveness from the start. The lack of alternative plans. During discussions during an open board meeting this summer, there was a request for a presentation of a plan that did not involve closing schools or all 4 schools. The most recent meetings, however, seem to have focused on the current proposal without presenting other alternatives. Are there additional options that could be considered but are not because of the need to get a vote on the table? And lastly, the lack of communication by the district. I, along with many other parents, have been disappointed with the lack of clear communication surrounding the boundary committee turned school closure proposal. I was on the committee. I've made an effort to stay on top of the information that's publicly available by watching board meetings, reading agendas and notes. And speaking with other community members, though, they typically open with the question, so what's even going on? Does the district plan to clearly communicate what is happening before the September 26th vote? Will you take time to answer the questions presented tonight during general comment? There have been several comments made regarding lack of attendance at board meetings and special meetings, but when the information is not clearly put out for the community, that's kind of to be expected. Thank you for your time. I hope you carefully consider the thoughts presented by myself and others tonight before making your decision on September 26th.
Brock Baker.
Good evening. My name is Brock Baker. I want to thank you all for listening to our concerns of our community. I'm here to speak to you today about the concerns that I have with transportation, as you should push forward with the plan to close schools, including my youngest child that attends Plymouth Elementary. My family lives 8.5 miles from our school. By moving our daughter to a school in town, you would be greatly altering her daily schedule and not in a positive way. we have not been given confirmation on which school our children would be relocated to. So I'll go ahead and give you the mileage to each of the possibilities I was given. Bernadine Sitz is 25 miles, Charles Stones would be 21, Alter Brown would be 21. This may not seem like a huge change, but if your child rides a bus, that will cause a great increase in the amount of time your child spends on the bus. I do not know the specifics. I will not venture to say that I do, to say neither do you, because nobody has given me any details on how transportation is going to change. When I first brought up my concerns via email, the response I did receive indicated that there had been no consideration to the transportation at that point. And I have not seen any information to suggest that it has been looked into in the meantime. So far, an example, I will provide you with the bus schedule for my children in middle school the past 4 years. The bus pickup was around 6:20 a.m. 2 buses prior to arriving at the school. That means my child got on 3 buses to arrive at school at Forest Good. The school drop-off was at 7:10, but the doors don't open until 7:20, which means my students had to stand outside for 10 minutes, rain or shine, cold, whatever, it didn't matter. Last year, I made the decision for the well-being of my middle school student, to begin picking him up at Plymouth Elementary. Otherwise, he would have been on the bus for anywhere from 1.5 to 2 hours after school before arriving home. If any of you think this is acceptable, I challenge you to make the commute 5 days a week during the school year. This was a real struggle for my middle school child. I can only imagine what my elementary school would be like at the end of each day and at the end of the week. I don't mean this as a complaint against the transportation, as they are doing the best you can with the resources they have. But has anyone considered the kind of strain that this is going to put on both transportation and the students and the families that utilize the busing system to get their children to school? Will we need additional drivers, additional buses? Are we going to be able to fill these positions if needed, if this plan is implemented? And at what additional cost? What are the routes going to look like? How much time is each student going to be spending on the bus each day? What happens when there aren't enough bus drivers available, and we are asked to transport our own children to the school? This has happened in this past year. That is why I see this area as such a concern. If these questions can't be answered, I don't think in any way we are ready to proceed with such a big change in our school district. Some final general questions I have for you for you to think about. Why is this plan being pushed through when there is clearly a lack of support from the community? Why is it being pushed through so quickly? And how many educators do you expect to lose over this plan being implemented? I will end with one of the positives that I have seen from this plan, that is reconstructing the grade levels in each school, K through 5, 6 through 8, and 9 through 12. I hope that we can keep it as a possibility in the future. But I'm reiterating that what most people are asking of you, please slow down, make sure that you have all the answers to the many questions, and listen to what your community really wants. Thank you for your time and hard work on this project.
HJ Swinder.
Good evening. My name is HCH Witer, and I have 2 children at Plymouth Elementary School. I manage several businesses here in Garden City, so I'm sympathetic to the scale of financial complexity and human resource management that the district oversees. I want to get straight to the point and say when an organization is in this much turmoil, the best thing to do is go back to the basics. Taking on this project is foolhardy at best, and the public does not support it. I do not place the full blame for the current dilemma directly on the school board members, as it seems the district administration has worked behind the scenes to close schools from the beginning, and they have hidden critical financial mismanagement from the public. This I know. I've read through thousands of documents produced by USD-457 through my core request, and of which there will be several more come out. Nevertheless, it is your decision whether to support actions and intentions of the administration with your vote on September 26th. I want to highlight just a few of the many financial debacles with which you have led us here. 1, the district missed the state reporting deadline for the revenue neutral rate and thus relinquished $1.169 million in funding for the school year. 2nd, the district failed to track COVID ESSER funds closely and missed the opportunity to consider using several $1 million of free federal money on facility repairs and improvements. 3, the board hastily purchased the land next to the high school for $660,000, which was nearly double market value. While this district ironically provided the cover story of planning to accommodate future growth, we have plenty of reasons to believe that the real intent was to prevent a convenience store from being built next to the high school. Guess what? You failed. The store is now being built on a lot even closer to the school. This is what we call a lose-lose situation. 4, according to internal emails and audit reports, over the last several years, the district has intentionally reallocated funds away from certain schools and deferred maintenance. It just so happens those certain schools are the one on the chopping block. Although the district intentionally decided to keep the financials from the common man, we know that the Disney World maintenance over the next 5 years is 1.7 at Plymouth, 1.5 at Jenny Barker, 6.2 at Gertrude Walker. So for some reason, we can't financially support the maintenance intentionally deferred to these schools, but can spend twice as much on an addition to an old school? How is that fiscally responsible to our taxpayers? 5, continuing this line of mistrust and hidden agendas, I think it should be noted that one of the most vocal proponents to the board's subcommittee to close schools and construct a multi-million-dollar addition to Kenneth Henderson also stands to potentially gain financially. Next, I want to touch briefly on the nature of the district's work with RSP and make a few points on why the public does not trust the data or proposals. 1, RSP provided 2 simple solutions to the overcapacity issue at Jenny Barker, but the district continued to push the hybrid facility master plan. 2, RSP worked with the district several years ago, and when their enrollment projections were significantly off, which they were, what happens if they're off again? Why did we choose them again? And this does not align with other population data, according to our county, according to our CVB, according to our local leaders. 3, the public and even school board member or 2, through emails provided by Cora, has requested RSP provide alternate scenarios. However, that has not been done. Every single proposal has included a closure of Jenny Barker and Plymouth Elementary. We're a rural area. Closing country schools negatively affects a large number of rural families, as you just heard from Mr. Baker. Finally, we need to address the other elephant in the room, which is the lack of leadership. The board did not renew Dr. Dominguez's contract for the following school year. If the board does not support him as the CEO, then why are we voting on a proposal which he was the lead architect? This is nuts. If the board votes to close 3, 4, 5 schools next year, who's going to execute such transition? These harsh changes will be on the backs of building principals and teachers to carry out with no real guidance. Instead, the board should be focused solely on hiring a qualified superintendent instead of voting on bad policy that is pushed by a lame duck superintendent and administration. Moreover, if the vote passes on September 26th, it will be the first of many new problems for the board. There will be likely litigation, recalls, and investigations into conflicts of interest. We need to put the brakes on it now. As a business executive, taxpayer, and Plymouth dad, I was disgusted when I read in the Cora request, and the board should be too. There have been numerous financial mistakes in hiding the facts by this administration, even the school board. The board has been stuck on the singular solution to a problem that nobody but the superintendent's office asked you to solve. The community is not going to roll over, sit back, or do nothing, as you see here tonight. I ask you to listen to the public. Listen to the 85% that want to keep these schools open. Listen to hundreds of people that have signed a petition in less than 72 hours to keep all schools open. I challenge you to think outside the box, board. Think outside the box, and vote no on September 26th.
Jackie Timpson.
I was really hoping I didn't have to follow him. Right, yes. They all stole my lines. So again, who's keeping time?
I got it.
All right, here we go, 5 minutes. Just a refresher, I'm Jackie Timpson, lifetime resident of Fenny County. I have 3 kids. 2 of them are currently enrolled in USD-457. Thank you again to all of you who took the time to speak with me directly and answer my questions. You explained some things that I didn't understand and gave some perspective that I didn't have, and I appreciate that, and it was really helpful. I further appreciate those of you that are bringing your questions to the board discussion. We need that, and you're our voice. My first concern is, as I brought up during the financials, is it doesn't have to do with school closures, but the oversight of the financials in the district. I'm glad that you guys see the budget, but I really feel like we would benefit as a district from a financial oversight committee. Setting a budget is one thing, following it and making sure things are coded correctly is another. Now, I share a lot of the same concerns as those who have already spoken about the closing of schools. I am thankful that your vote didn't take place in May as originally planned and that it's been put off. We would like to see it fully stopped, if not slowed down significantly. We're frustrated. We obviously got a lot of people here. I don't know all these people were coming, but many more people aren't speaking up because they feel like it's a done deal. They don't feel like they're being listened to. And so I hope that you guys can bring up some of these questions in discussion and let everybody know that you are listening and you are fighting for them. Chris beat me to this, but one of my concerns is with conflicts of interest. I understand that board members have to recuse themselves from a vote when they have a conflict of interest. However, I think ethically, recusal from discussion leading up to that vote would also be warranted because a lot of the sway is in the discussion. Prime example, I don't get a vote and I'm up here trying to sway yours. So we also don't have all of the information, much like yourselves. And I was one of the people who requested the financial information back in April. I attended the meeting on April 15th, the public forum on April 17th. And I was told repeatedly that no financial data had been presented. It doesn't appear to even be requested until April 27th, and that feels icky. The county recently voted, as you did too, on raising property taxes above revenue neutral. Now that our properties are taxed at fair market value, closing these small schools is going to have a significant impact on property taxes that will affect the county too, and not just the district. It's a big deal. You've heard that repeatedly. I cannot stress it enough. Aside from the lost revenue of tax dollars, we're also looking at lost FTE from students that we will lose from the district. Has that been factored into the future savings of this proposed plan? These schools are a selling point in drawing people to our community. We need professionals. It is so hard to get doctors and accountants and it's really hard to bring people out here. And these schools sell that on so many levels. And I just really want you guys to know that. The uncertainty surrounding this decision, as you've heard multiple times already, has caused us to lose teachers, good teachers that wouldn't need to be replaced if they'd heard a lot of the things that you guys shared with me personally. Our teachers, our students, our community need to hear your concerns and you guys asking these questions and having this discussion in the board meeting. Okay, my children don't need a brand new shiny facility to learn. They do need good teachers, engaged teachers, and they need a community of peers that they can learn and grow with. Last year, when my boys were in first grade, they could name almost every student in their school. I think that that's significant and that has a lasting effect on our kids. I know you guys are going to talk about class size, I think, but from what I've heard, that's not the concern. Our concern is school size, and smaller schools are desired in our community. So, like you, we're all hearing the proposal for the first time tonight, and we're interested to hear the details, as I know you are too. And I really hope that you keep in mind some of these issues and concerns that have been raised during this discussion and presentation and bring them up when you do discuss it. How did I do on time?
Oh, 5 right on the dot. Kylie Boyd.
Kylie Boyd, and one of 3 people who came to the last meeting that felt very blindsided by all of this. So I would like to add that I do think there is major lack of awareness of what's happening here. I appreciate Andy and others that I've spoke to that have answered many of my questions. My husband and my children go to Jenny Barker, but I'm actually not here to tell you today the reasons why not to close our country schools, because I think everyone else has given plenty of reasons. And I also understand from a fiscally responsible perspective what you all are being faced with. However, I come with a few concerns and urge you, as many have before, to just pump the brakes on this, and so we can develop a win-win situation. We need to remember that we are all here on the same team, right, with the same goal to do what's best to educate kids in our community. I too am concerned about the board's and the administration's capacity to carry out this proposed plan while also searching for a new superintendent. There's only so much time in a day, and undoubtedly less time will be spent focusing on the current and future education needs of our children. And let's be real, our district is tough. We have a very diverse group of kiddos, and it's not easy to educate our kids, and they need our full attention. I'm also very saddened by the unintended consequences this plan will have. I wish we were spending this much time and energy reimagining and innovating our schools and making them even better. Just think if you all had been spending all this time thinking about how education could look different here. But here we are. So I also felt good that the board listened to the community by taking Georgie Matthews off the list to be closed, because we know that houses our behavior program, which is one thing that I've been told we do well. The kids in this program need structure, they need predictability, familiarity, and they often can struggle immensely with little changes, like something like a different shirt can throw off an entire day. So imagine what it would be like for those kiddos to move to a new school. But I am told that even though the school hasn't been taken off, the kids with that program was still planned in this proposal to move, which I don't think there's any way that there's a plan in place to make that be successful for those kids that require a little bit more. The timing of the closures, again, I spoke to some of you about this, but I don't think that our administration can make these changes by next year effectively. If we do it, yes, but it would be something that we would have many unintended consequences and our kiddos would suffer. And is there truly a rush as to why it must be done? I think it's come up and again, but I'm still questioning that. And let's talk about our staff. We talked about highly qualified recruiting. What about retaining them? We have some wonderful, wonderful teachers that I know will walk away from education because they don't want to go teach at a different school, or they don't want to go to a different administrator. And so how many of them will we lose? We can't afford that. And I have no doubt the quality of education will be impacted the remainder of this year. And one of my most important points, is that our next year sixth graders were our COVID babies, right? They were kindergarten, so they lost out of kindergarten, first, second. So all of our sixth graders will have an extra transition, an unnecessary transition. Specifically, our town sixth graders will go from fourth grade, then move to the fifth grade building, then back to a sixth grade building, and then to seventh grade building. So 4 transitions in 4 years is simply unacceptable. Okay, the kids don't transition. None of us transition well, right? So the timing of this next year is just not right. Also, the boundary changes. Where are our kids going to go? That has not been discussed. We haven't seen a proposal for that. And I'm guessing there'll have to be 2 changes, one for the elementary school, and then again, when we do 6th grade into the middle school. So again, kids are going to get bounced around. Lastly, there are too many missing details, and including the why behind all of this. We all want what's best for children, and we know that. And we don't all have to agree, but we should have access to the necessary information to make informed decisions. So as everyone else, I once again urge you to pause, regroup, and figure out how to bring the community alongside you in this process as we figure out how to improve the education landscape of Garden City.
Grace Coash.
You already did it.
You got in there twice. That is all the public comments. Thank you all very much. Move on to item F, the consent agenda.
Does anyone actually like answer any of these questions? How do you find out any of these answers? What I want to know.
Need to reach out to the administration.
Yeah, that's very helpful.
We're gonna,
There will be a discussion. It's on the, it's on
I'm
a,
wondering, because that's a lot of questions,
the,
and not much time to answer them all.
presentation. There'll be a section in our agenda tonight where we're gonna talk about this, proposal from the subcommittee in detail.
Will it also explain why there's all these movements to add attorney litigation, all that stuff? What's that about? That's interesting to me too.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
The additions to the agenda.
We're gonna follow the agenda and we'll go through the items on the agenda. Mr. President, I move we approve the consent agenda.
second. Move and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same. Item G, unfinished business. Item H1, G1, approve the resolution to adopt the LD percentage for the 24-25 school year.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approves the resolution to adopt the local option budget percentage.
Been moved. Is there a second? Been moved and seconded to approve the resolution to adopt the LOB percentage for the 24-25 school year. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item G2, approval of the 24-25 budget.
Mr. President, based on the building needs assessment that has been presented, including state assessment review and considering in development the budget, I move that the Board of Education approve exceeding the revenue neutral rate in the approval for the presented 2024-2025 district budget.
Motion's been entertained to approve the budget. Any, a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? No discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Move on to item H, new business. H1, the Board of Education is asked to consider and approve the following curriculum council items. Josh Gunn.
I just have a couple of things from Curriculum Council for this, their last meeting. The first one is just a change in name for the Windows application course at Garden City Community College that the students can take at the high school for dual credit. The college has changed their name in their catalog, and so we need to change the name of the class to match the catalog for the community college. And so we're asking the board to approve. Just to approve the name change, the course will not change, it'll just change the name. And then the second one is to add Theory of Music 1 as an elective course. That would be, the hope with that is that would be a dual credit class as well, excuse me. And the hope is that will allow students to enter into a music pathway at the community college with the opening of other music classes down the road for that. So those are the only two items that I have.
Josh, are you seeking approval on these tonight, or will they go on the consent?
Yeah, we don't need approval tonight. They'll go on the consent agenda. Just introduce them and answer questions if y'all have any questions for me.
Do we have a teacher for the Theory of Music class?
That's at the college.
Oh, it's at the.
Yeah, that class will be taught at the
Okay.
college. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I guess I should have said that. The college, the theory of music class will actually be taught at the community college, and then the Windows class, we do have a teacher that teaches that now. And that's at Garden City High School.
These are electives.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Mr. Gunn? Thanks. On to item H2, the Board of Education is asked to consider and approve the updated Board of Education policy, GAOI workers' compensation. Josh Gunn.
So we got this from KSB. There was some changes in legislation for workmen's compensation for the after the last legislation, and so the policy has just been changed to align with state law. And so the copy that you all have basically is red line and blue line. The blue line is the changes that that KSB has recommended after the change in legislation, and the red line is the changes that I made just to the change in title for the person that's responsible for workmen's compensation for our school district. So no major changes, just changes the timelines for when you can claim workman's comp. So it's just an update to align with state law.
Any other questions? You are seeking action on that?
If I could, yes.
Legal counsel's reviewed these.
Yes, sir.
I entertain a motion if so.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the workers' compensation.
A second.
To move and seconded to approve the workers' compensation as any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Yes. Okay, we're on to item H3, district reconfiguration. Vice President Andy Farmeyer.
Thank you, Randy. So, we're gonna do tonight is make the formal recommendation of our subcommittee. Is everybody, as you all board members recall, we did have RSP hired as a consultant to lead our district, our community through what began as a boundary study committee. Boundary study back in February. Through that committee process, the topic of grade reconfiguration came up again. There was a recommendation to this board in 2019, that this school district changed to a K-5, 6A configuration. No action was taken on that at that time. That topic came up again in the boundary study. And after that topic was brought up, the board decided to extend the services that RSP was going to provide, instead of focusing solely on redrawing boundaries, to expand the services of their consulting to discuss with that committee the topic of grade reconfiguration. As that process concluded, that committee, which had originally voted unanimously 31-0 to expand the scope of the study to grade reconfiguration, and requested the board look at that. At the conclusion, voted approximately 85% of those committee members voted to still make a recommendation to our board to assess grade reconfiguration. That was done in May. Excuse me, that was done in May. At that time, the board appointed 3 board members to serve on a subcommittee. The function of that subcommittee was to dive deep into all the details associated with bringing to the board a recommendation as to what we believe, that committee believes the district should choose change-wise to accomplish grade reconfiguration. The 3 board members that were on that are Nathan Heck, Robin Burkamp, and myself. who, the three of us were also members of the original boundary study subcommittee. We spent quite a bit of time as a subcommittee working on this. When we, after that board meeting, when that subcommittee was formed in May, we were meeting every other week. We met for approximately 2 hours every other week. And then we had a board retreat in, I believe, July 15th, I believe, July 17th, where we gave an update to the board as to what was starting to materialize as our recommendation. At that point, we talked about continuing on. We did essentially a straw poll of our board, said this is the direction that this recommendation is starting to take shape. Do you recommend that we continue looking at this? The board asked that we do. And since that meeting in July 17th, we've been meeting every Thursday at 5 o'clock. Those meetings have gone through anywhere from about an hour to an hour and a half rather to 2.5 hours or longer. A lot of the things that people have asked about tonight, have we as a subcommittee looked into these things? We have looked in great depth at these things. We've discussed a tremendous amount. We've discussed, as has been discussed, we are recommending multiple things. And I'm just gonna, I guess the best thing I suggest is just for us to start walking through this. So in the board packet, you'll see this information has been put into a one-page document. That one-page document highlights all of the major components of this recommendation. And the goal of this process is to offer to the board what this committee suggests the district change structurally about our district in order to become a K-568 district. This board can vote yes or no. They can vote to accomplish grade reconfiguration per the recommendation of the committee or any other variation of it. It's up to the board and us as board members to make that. But this is what their subcommittee is bringing back. The overall timeline to transition from K-5 or from our current configurations to a K-568 program would be one in which we would start as a K-5 district in the fall of 2028. Two major components of this that are really the cause for several other things that we're talking about is Bernadine Sitz and Charles Stones, our two intermediate centers, would become elementary schools. Those two education centers currently don't serve elementary education. So that basically adds upwards of 1,000 seats of student capacity in the elementary school level that we don't currently have. So we're adding 2 elementaries to our district and adding 1,000 seat capacity in the K through 5 in the elementary grade levels. If we were to do no other changes at the elementary level, we would have 13 elementary schools, and our building utilization for those elementary schools would be in the low 50% range. So that, as a subcommittee, we felt that posed a long-term problem to us as a district to operate 13 elementary schools that are utilizing capacities that are below 50, in the 50% range. With this, we also need to expand and add on to our middle schools. Essentially, our middle schools are the bottleneck in this plan. If we make these changes when the intermediate centers become elementary schools, we have an overabundance of capacity at the elementary level, but we don't have the capacity to accept 6th graders at our 2 current middle schools. Our current middle school classes in the 6, 7, 8 grades have averaged a little under 500 students, or around 500 students. So we're running a model based off of approximately 1,500 middle schoolers when we convert to K-568. So we started by determining what is the ideal capacity that we want to be at with our middle schools. We want to ensure that we allow for growth as our community does grow. And we intend, and we see, we intend to see a student population growth to come with it. We don't want to go into this plan with middle schools that are already maxed out at capacity. So we looked at what that range might be, and we determined that approximately 80% it would be a target range for capacity at our middle schools. So we started by looking at Horace Good and the current student population at Horace Good max capacity, and then worked the numbers backwards to what would 80% of that be. And that answer was about 750 students. So if we know that we could house 750 students at Horace Good, and we knew that we would have about 1,500 total middle schoolers, that really told us what changes wouldn't be necessary at KH to build that student population up. So when we have 750 students there, we're also around that 80% capacity to allow for more growth. So essentially, the plan is to build between 16 and 20 classrooms onto KH. This will allow us to have a max capacity of approximately 900 students at KH. And as a result of this, our two middle schools will be pretty much equally sized. That was a topic of discussion during the various models that were looked at during the boundary study. And we're wondering if we wanted to have two equally sized middle schools, or if we were okay with the approximately 2-to-1 ratio we currently have. We got a lot of feedback. I think actually consensus is that there wasn't any pushback or resistance to having unequal sized middle schools. But I'll say as we went through this process and keeping building utilization and student capacity in mind, it just inadvertently worked out that we would arrive at two middle schools of equal size. It wasn't the intent, it was the result of that assessment. But as we mentioned before, converting Bernadine Sitz and Charles Stones into elementary schools adds 1,000 student capacity at the elementary school level above what we already have. So the discussion the committee felt that was too many elementary schools and underutilization. We need to look at changes. If you were at the board retreat, the last board retreat, when we presented a rough draft of this plan, we talked about closing 4 elementary schools: Plymell, Jenny Barker, Gertrude Walker, and Georgia Matthews. Since then, our committee has continued to meet, and one of the focuses of our discussion in our subcommittee meeting that followed our board retreat was, do we have a preference as to how many tracks we want to have in our elementary schools? Bernadine and Charles Stones, I believe, hold 33. They have 33 classrooms. They have the capacity to be a 5-track elementary school if you were completely full. We didn't feel that was something we wanted for our district. We wanted to limit that to a 4-track. And so that's discussed on that same flyer. But in doing that, by not putting those 5th tracks into Bernadine Sitz and Charles Stone, the committee decided that in order to maintain capacity at the elementary for future growth in the community, we need to have those 2 tracks. We need to retain 2 additional tracks. And that was the decision to keep Georgia Matthews as an elementary school and not close it. The behavior program that's currently there are 14 classrooms in Georgia Matthews. To be a K-5 school and allow room for science and for art, you would need all 14 of those classrooms. The behavior program occupies 1 classroom at Georgia Matthews currently. So in this recommendation, Georgia Matthews would be an elementary school if it was a full true track school, but that would no longer be the home of the behavior program. We haven't essentially nailed this down yet, but it's very likely that Bernadine Sitz or Charles Stones would be the new home for the behavior program. With those 2 buildings being K4, there's approximately 7 extra classrooms that are not dedicated to K-5 students or the art and science. Curriculum, Josh, I believe that's the case. But so there's room in those 2 buildings, and that's where we really create the opportunity to not only continue the behavior program, but grow the behavior program. If it was relocated to, say, Bernardine or Charles Stone's. But the core of this recommendation is, the current recommendation is to close Gertrude Walker with the intent of repurposing it for other district uses, and to close Jenny Barker and Plymell with the intent to sell those two properties. And as you see here in the bulletin, Georgia Matthews will remain open as an elementary school.
Why do we keep Georgia Matthews open if we have 4 track schools opening up? It doesn't make sense. It was too expensive to
If we,
keep open before.
if we keep, it's about maintaining the capacity for growth. If we keep Georgia Matthews open, we would have the potential to have 32 tracks amongst all of our elementary schools. And currently, with an average class size of 500 students and the reduced class size that I'll get to in a second here, we would need about 24 tracks. So essentially, we'd have capacity within our building. We would be a district that could house 32 tracks across all our elementary schools, and projected use of only 24 of those. So that gives us capacity for growth in the future. One of the things we've talked about as a committee is also, as we draw boundary lines associated with these elementary schools, that we specifically look at Bernardine Sits, Charles Stone's, and VO in regard to setting their initial student capacities down in the low 70 percentile range. Those are the 3 schools that are closest to our areas of growth. It would allow Bernardine Sits, Charles Stone's, and possibly VO to really continue to come closer to their capacity as we see housing development continue to grow in the north end of town within the bypass loop. And we continue to see housing development out east of 156. Those are likely the boundary areas for those schools. So being intentional as we draw boundary lines, we'd like to see our administration draw boundary lines to where the initial student capacities in those are lower to allow for those. And the purpose of that is to set boundary lines that are not going to change anytime soon. We want to ideally set boundaries that are 10-year boundaries, not 3 to 5 year boundaries. So we want to be intentional when we draw boundaries to create ones that allow for as that housing development continues and new students enter our district, that there's a school there that can take those students and not become overloaded.
Those schools are still so far from many of us, though. That's the thing. Like, we're gonna be traveling far to get to school if you close our rural schools. That's the big thing right there.
I'll get to the topic of transportation here in a second. I'd like to.
Things though, like all you suggest is shut these schools down. You haven't come up with any other ideas of ways we can keep them open and it's ridiculous.
Let's just hear them out and see everything, and then we'll get to
Please
that.
allow me to finish going through everything. Okay, so as a part of this, there was quite a bit of discussion in committee about what are the value adds? What are we gonna make different about USD-457 that's better that we currently aren't able to offer? What are we gonna be able to make changes to that is gonna be create a new value to our students and our community that we currently can't do? And so there's a section in this bulletin, and you see it's called proposed solutions. The first is to lower classroom sizes by 2 students per class in the grade level. So currently, in our lower elementary levels, our board policy is set at 23 students per class. We would change that to 21. We recommend we as a board lower those maximum students per classroom by 2 students for the K-5 levels. And all of the numbers and discussions we've had about building capacities and all have all been run based on the reduced classroom sizes. Through these changes, we believe that the additional academic enrichment programs such as STEM could be offered at all elementary schools. School boundaries would be established to keep buildings no larger than 4 track per grade level and congruent through the transition. So the intent as we draw boundaries And I'll get to this a little bit about this transition plan but with this plan, we recommend a 3-year transition period where the district would be a K-6 school at the elementary level for 3 years. And then when the new addition is done at KH, then the transition becomes a K-5. But we draw boundary lines at the elementary level that would not change when we go from K-5 to 6-8. And the purpose of that is, again, to make this as minimally disruptive of a plan and not have boundaries created that only are in place for 3 years. As I mentioned before, the behavior program is recommended to be relocated to another school to where it can be potentially expanded. The other benefit that we could offer as a result of this is that all the middle school activities and CASHA approved athletics for 6th graders could be offered to all 6th graders at the middle school. One item I don't see on this list, but we've talked about is the ability to offer choir. Well, this really kind of falls under that, but offer choir, orchestra, and programs at all 6th graders. Currently, we can't do that. And because of, so some of our schools don't have those programs, and that is something that we can do for all 6th graders because we can offer those in both middle schools.
Of other kids riding the bus for 3 hours a day.
So the other, I'm gonna continue on here. Timeline, the proposed timeline would be for this plan to commence at the start of the 2025-2026 school year. That's when our district would transition to a K-6 school district. Really, that's based on the anticipation that there would be about a 3-year total period needed to design and build what would be between approximately, we foresee between approximately 26 and 30,000 on the KH. Once that construction is done, that is anticipated to be the fall of, to where the school, 6th graders can then move to the middle school levels in the fall of 2028.
But you shut down our schools at the end of this year, right? The school year?
Yes, and we'll talk about, that is part of the recommendation, and we'll talk about that. There's a lot of questions tonight about other next level set of decisions, what the boundary lines would be, number of classrooms per school based off those boundary lines, staff relocations, and such. And so I'm going to talk about that last here, but I'm going to go to the financial impacts. So we estimate that the total needs to build the addition onto KH, as well as make the planned improvements to Burning Sits and Charles Stones to meet them elementary schools, things such as building playgrounds, would total between $15 and $16 million. The funding for this would come from a combination of allocation of capital outlay resources and what's called a lease purchase agreement. So we anticipate that about approximately $8 million of that will come out of planned capital outlay. The other $8 million would be through a lease purchase, which is essentially a loan that is paid off through the debt service on it is paid through your annual budget. So this would not require a bond issue. This would not require raising property taxes to do this. That was one thing that we talked a lot in committee about, was finding a way, can this be done without having to raise property taxes in order to finance it? As we talked and we discussed in detail at the last board retreat, part of how we can build up capital outlay reserves is through the three of the schools, or those 3 schools that we talked about, all do have planned capital outlay expenses in the next 3 years that total approximately $3.5 million. If those improvements are not done to those schools, then those budgeted capital outlay dollars play into the plan of finance. I will emphasize that although that closing closing those three schools is a piece of the financial equation here. There are multiple reasons that we looked at and evaluated as to why those three were ultimately the recommended schools. We met in committee and talked about every single school, every single elementary school in this district, and whether or not that was the right one. We arrived at these three, which were the ones that were initially discussed during the RSP boundary, but the reason we came back to those and settled on those was because there's a multitude of reasons that really rose to the top as to why they should be. We talked about every school in the district. I mean, we had discussions. Why should we be closing Buffalo Jones? Should we close Jenny Wilson? Should Florence Wilson be closed? I will tell you that we spent time at two different board meetings, or committee meetings rather, sorry, two different committee meetings, really discussing whether Abe Hubert should be closed. That topic came up. It was discussed at one committee meeting. We readdressed it and discussed it further. We took a really hard look at that. But ultimately, for reasons, it was decided that Abe Hubert was not the appropriate one to be closed. And it was best for our district long-term for Abe Hubert to remain. So I hope that people, that gives folks assurances to know that this has been looked at in great depth, and that we were not laser focused in on these three schools, that we did genuinely talk about all of them. So what I wanted to talk with the board about is what are these, this is the recommendation of the committee. What are the planned timelines and what does this mean in decision making? So we have with this is planned for this action item to be on the September 26th meeting. To take legal binding decision on this, we have to develop this next level of information farther. That information has to be presented to the community. There has to be a public hearing held, and the timelines for those things. So discussions about the boundaries, staff placement, all of those things have to be detailed out and presented and made public to the community. And Jennifer, chime in if I'm misstating any of this, because what I'm asking to hear is the legalities of this. But essentially, in summation, those next level of information has to be developed, and we have to go through a statutory process. That is anticipated to take until approximately February of 2025. So but what our administrative team needs to know from us is essentially we're at a fork in the road. Okay, this is the recommendation this committee is making to the board as to, if you do grade reconfiguration, this is our suggestion as to what changes to do in order to accomplish that. But we have to decide, because talking with staff, what is the necessary time needed to do this? And in order to be at that point by February, we have to tell our staff whether or not to dedicate the time and energy to do those things, to direct, to come up with boundaries, to determine number of sections per school, to make staff reassignments. And then all of that has to be made public, and there's a statutory process that goes through with that. So what we need as a board to decide on September 26th is to whether to take the next step, whether to direct our administrative team to dedicate the time and energy to do that next level of work, and then bring that full batch of information to us so that we can then hold the public hearings. And then ultimately, the binding decision would not come until all that's complete, which, talking with our district staff, they anticipate that would be probably sometime in February before the final binding decision would be made. So that's really kind of the summation of it. Do you guys have any questions about this?
Yes, I have. Maybe not questions, but thoughts.
Okay.
think we all agree that the fifth, sixth grade transition to K through 5 and 6 to 8 is supported pretty strongly. I cannot get behind closing the schools without public support. That's very encouraging. I still think that there could be a committee done. No, the focus is to make those grade reconfigurations and a plan come up to do it. And utilize buildings and finances to make that happen, to still do it responsibly. I think I know RSP still owes us a boundary study for this. We decide on what will happen. But I think we need to, my personal opinion is we need to focus on how we can make that K-5, 6, 8 transition, balance the middle schools. I think having all the students be able to have the same opportunity for electives is something that's important. I know my kids, 5th and 6th were at Plymouth and they didn't have some of the same options. I think that's important, but I think we need to focus on how we can get that done without, we're a big county and I know the distance and I know it's important to have the schools located where they are. And I personally would like to see focusing on how we can do that transition without closing schools.
Yeah, I would say on your comment about transportation, we certainly talked about that. There's no doubt there are families that live south of Plymouth and north of Jenny Barker, and their travel times to school will increase. I know that there's a large portion of the students that go to Plymouth that their travel time to school, whether they're placed in, whether it's Charles Stone's, VO, Alta Brown, Vernon Sips, any of those schools, but those travel times will likely decrease, but it will have an impact on people. We've talked about what that would mean for those students that are far out, whether it makes more sense to use our Suburbans to bring those kids in and not have them have to ride the bus. I don't believe that, Jennifer, I don't believe that a plan of transportation is part of the statutory requirement, but I think it makes sense to make sure that we include that as a assessment and a full plan from our administration team before we make that final vote, even though it's not required. I think that I support you and make sure that plan is also developed out with its final decisions made.
That's a good question. Is there not any sort of a conflict to have, if you do make Charles Stone's into a big school, to have Meteor and Charles Stone so close to each other?
Can we let all the board talk first and then you guys can ask questions? Does that make sense?
Sure. Go ahead, Ron.
Okay, first, I would like to say that the job that we were tasked with, it was very difficult and it was very hard. And sometimes it has been very difficult to be in this position because some people in the public have not been very nice to us. And if I get emotional, I'm sorry. I'm just as passionate about this as you guys are. So understand, not one of us got on this committee and said, we need to shut these schools down. We didn't have any bad intentions. We were tasked with a difficult job and we did the very best that we could. And the three of us on the committee, after hours and hours, we still don't all agree. I'm not 100% in love with this plan. There are things about it I think are fantastic. And yes, the 6 through 8 is wonderful. My concerns are very much similar to what your concerns are. Where are we gonna put, and I feel bad for Bernadine Sitz and Charles Stones because I feel like they've been left out of the conversation quite a bit. But all of those fifth and sixth grade teachers are going to be moved somewhere else unless they stay at that elementary school. So I feel bad for them. So we have 6 schools with principals, teachers, and students that are gonna be jumbled around. And for me, when I found out from council we needed a written plan, I was like, great, because that will make me feel so much better when I vote to know that we have a plan and this is what we're going to do. Because I couldn't feel okay impacting 6,000 or 8,000 people by the time we count students and teachers and parents without having a plan. And I'm kind of a by the seat of my pants gal. You want to do something tomorrow? Okay, let's get it done. But I couldn't feel comfortable voting for 6 to make that kind of impact without a plan. So I feel much better that we're gonna have to slow this down and actually have the written plan. And I don't know how we easily get the information out to you guys. It breaks my heart that you feel like we don't get the information to you. But the 7 of us have real jobs and we have real lives. We don't just do this and we get paid $0. We're doing this because we care. So to feel attacked when we're doing something to try to help, and I'm sorry, but we're as passionate as you guys are. So please have some grace for us that we're doing the best we can in a very difficult situation. And there are things that do need to be done. If you, as HJ said, if you run a business, there are things that it's not efficient to run a business at 50% capacity. So you have to sometimes make difficult decisions. None of us want to hurt any of our students, any of our teachers. So please give us some grace and understand we're trying to do a difficult job. And I think it's fair to let all of us talk and then we'll be happy to answer you guys' questions.
I was gonna speak at the end after everybody talked. Go ahead.
Under my presidency, I appointed Andy and Robin and Nathan to continue on the committee, because they were the board members that had volunteered to be on the boundary study originally, so it made the most sense. They had the most information to continue with that process. So I want to thank you guys. I know the hours that you've put into this. I know the hard work that you've put into this. It hasn't been easy for any of us, but I think we have to look at the future of Garden City a little bit, and we have to be forward focused as a board. I think there's great things about this plan and there's challenging things about this proposal. The great things are, I think you guys have done a great job at positioning the students and what you've talked about, leaving our most north and east schools with capacity for growth as our community goes that way. I think that's a great vision. I mean, that's the way the town's going. That's the way the community's growing. I think that's a great vision in moving some of our students possibly back to the west to fill some of the buildings that are running under capacity today. Closing the schools is obviously extremely challenging for all of us. If that is voted on to do, that's going to be a heartache for the community. It won't be the first time. I mean, Lincoln Elementary's been closed. Friend, I mean, there's several of them that it's happened over time. No one likes that. No one wants to do that, but it's something that we have to look at as a board when we're managing this district. We want to look forward. We don't want to get into a situation like other communities that are forced or have been forced to close schools because of financial stress or distress. We want to be forward thinking. We want to get ahead of those conversations and that thought process to where we make sure that we are setting Garden City School District up to be successful in the future. The main reason I think we've started to discuss the transition, or was to take a transition out of the student's education. I know that we have to try to minimize the transition if something is voted on to not implement or not to impact, the most teachers and students that we have. But the goal behind going to a K-5 and a 6-8 was to take one transition out of their education process to try to increase academic success, try to keep our students or make our students more successful in their building and have one less transition in their educational period. That was the heart behind it. I mean, the heart behind it was never to close schools or disrupt things. The heart was to try to better Garden City by taking that transition out. So I think, I mean, there's a lot of answers that are still a lot of questions that still need answered in this process. But as a committee, I mean, I appreciate you guys going through the endless hours of, bringing some of this to us. I thought the retreat on the 29th of August of August was wonderful information. If any of you haven't watched that full hour and 15 minutes, I would encourage you to go back and watch that. There's a lot of questions that were answered in that. A lot of the questions that were asked tonight, that information was in that live stream. So I appreciate the feedback. I mean, I talked to a few of you today on the phone. I appreciate that. A phone call and just a conversation about where we're at, what we're thinking, answering questions that way. I invite people to call me and visit about that. I want to hear from the public in that avenue. We do value your input. I know that there was comments made tonight, well, the board made their decision, will coming tonight even matter? Yes, it matters. I don't think that there's anyone up here that has made their decision on what direction we're going, what that's going to look like. We are still in the process of peeling back this onion and trying to figure out what is the best solution for Garden City. So I appreciate everyone that calls. I enjoy talking to them. I love to hear their input. I love to hear their concerns and all of those concerns. I mean, I took notes on every speaker that spoke tonight, what your concerns are. And Dr. Dominguez can tell you, we pass all of them right up the chain to him. And they worked through that. The committee helped work through a lot of those and were passed back at our public input nights. Not all of those have been answered yet. And I understand the frustration that not all of those have been answered, but we are getting to a process to get to the answers of all of them. And that's what this board is doing. We asked to slow the process down, to go through the details, to answer the questions that the public has. We can't provide an answer to everything on day one. We have to start doing it through stair steps. When we resolve this answer, then we can get to the next question. It all builds on itself, and to just say that we can blanketly answer every question isn't, I mean, we're not doing our due diligence. We have to work through it and come to those conclusions to make sure we can answer the questions that the public has correctly. So anyway, we appreciate public input. I thought it was great. I love to hear the concerns. Each person that spoke brings up something that, we need to work through, or maybe something that we hadn't thought about. So I think that's great. And I do appreciate you guys' committee. I know that personally, several of you have been beat up, which I think is a little unfair, just because I think you guys were doing what we asked you to do. What the rest of the board asked you to do is work on the committee and bring something to us. So I appreciate that.
Well, I know I've talked a lot tonight talking about this scope, but I'd like an opportunity to just share some of my thoughts and my personal opinions about this. Had a lot of conversations through this entire process, going all the way back to when this was a boundary study. I spent lots of evenings, lots of time on the weekends, having phone conversations with several people in this room and people who aren't in this room. Recently is this plan, as we've gone through this particularly these last couple of weeks, as we presented the draft and talked tonight. When I ask people, when we have these conversations, I ask them, can we start this conversation by you sharing with me what you know about the plan? And I ask that because I'm trying to gauge how well was the district we're doing in communicating this plan. We've worked very hard to ensure that this process is transparent, and that that's the reason and the intentionality behind utilizing the board retreats and having these public meetings that are not only open to the public, they're recorded. You can go home and watch them tonight on YouTube. I believe when I checked before this meeting, The first board retreat had less than 400 views and the second one had less than 600. I think the thing that, when I ask people, what are we looking at doing? The most common thing I hear is you're gonna go K-5, 6, 8, and you're closing schools. And those are definitely parts of this plan, but it's not all of it. And I feel like we're not doing a very good job as a district and as a board in communicating the full breadth of this plan. And we have to own it. Like, and what it's telling me is the information, like John said, the information is there, but it's not presented well enough. People don't want to watch an hour and a half long board. I appreciate everybody being here tonight. I hope that this night kind of gives you that a lot greater depth of knowledge and understanding and the why behind what caused this decision and this. But we have to own that as a board. We have to do better at communicating this. We're going to continue to make this discussion transparent and public, just as we have, but we've got to be able to find better ways to reach people and make sure that we use Facebook a lot, but it's apparent that Facebook doesn't reach everybody. We've had discussions recently about needing to use Remind and other sources because we need to get better at that, and we own that. As Robin kind of said, I've gone into this committee knowing full well the effects of it. This affects every single building in our district except for the high school and potentially Garfield. So we're not talking about just 4 schools here. We're talking about every single building in our district except for those 2. I live in the Jenny Barker district. We bought our lot and built our house because I wanted my girls to go to Jenny Barker. I understand that sentiment completely. And as I've talked through these and had these conversations with people, and we really talk about the why, and we talk about the big effect here, the big trigger here is the 2 intermediate centers becoming elementary schools and the abundance of capacity that creates. And then what do you do about that next? And I nearly every conversation I've had, we get to the end of it, say, okay, every one of those phone calls tends to be anywhere from around an hour to have this one-to-one conversation with folks. And as we get to the end of it, I ask them, okay, now that we've talked on all of this and you understand that this is our committee's recommendation, what do you think? Do you have any other suggestions? And nearly every one of those ends in I don't like it. I understand it, but I don't like it. And I said, okay, do you think we should do grade reconfiguration then? And nearly everyone has said yes. So I understand it. It's not a decision that is going to make people happy. It's gonna make some people upset. I welcome any suggestion for other ways to deal with the capacity issue that's created when Bernadine sits and Charlestown become elementary schools. We could close those buildings, but they're 2 of our newest buildings in the district. They were built in the mid-90s. Aside from our high school, there are 2 newest education centers. I don't believe that makes sense to close those buildings. But I welcome any recommendations. I will say, I'm surprised and frankly kind of taken back. During public comment tonight, there were 3 people that specifically accused me of having a conflict of interest. I have a background in construction. I run Hutton Construction's Western Kansas operations. My field of expertise is commercial construction, and school construction is definitely one of those areas. But I think to jump to the conclusion that I have motivated to do this for me or my company's personal gain is outlandish. I mean, what makes a board great is when people are willing to bring their area of expertise to a group of 7 and offer their knowledge and help guide and make decisions that are in the best interest of the district with zero effort and with zero desire to be self-serving in that. And maybe that's something that people have a tough time assuming people are willing to do that. But I felt like I have been able to be an asset to our district and to this board and to these subcommittees because of my knowledge of construction. And as we talked about construction costs and we talked about timelines to build onto KH, I can offer insight and expertise in that. I will give you absolute 100% assurance that Hutton will not be involved in any aspect of any construction related to grade reconfiguration that is a result of this. If you know me, you would know that. If you knew me, you would not stand up here and say those things. But it's evident that some people don't know me. So the only thing I can say to that is time will prove that. Right? You all will see that there is no conflict of interest. There will be no action by me or by Hutton to pursue any part of this. There never was any intent. And I can say this till I'm blue in the face, but you'll just have to see that play itself out if this ends up going forward.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank Andy, Robin, and Nathan for the administration and the folks that served on this committee and the time they spent. This has been a lot of be thrown at us here that have been on this board since January. But there are a couple of things I want to make sure I say, and it may seem like I ramble here because I may ramble a little bit. A couple of things. Jackie said this, and I definitely agree with. I'd like to have the support of the community in what we're doing. I don't want this community torn apart by this. I have a great concern about closing the only two country schools we have in USD-457 and busing all of our students into the community. I know that those two schools do a great job in the education of the students. I know they're great places for them, for the students to be. Some of the information as far as what we have communicated out to the public and amongst ourselves even, it is lacking in the plan that we're going to have to put in writing of some kind. Definitely we'll make sure that gets out to folks. It's been communicated here. I'm not sure the best method to do that. Facebook definitely is not the one and only, but we got to figure that one out however we do this. Transportation, I grew up in a rural community. I grew up in a small community. I rode a bus and yeah, you want to minimize that time, especially when you're talking K through 5, K through 6, whatever it is. They don't need to be on the bus any longer than they need to be. Couple things, I've talked to some folks, some of the deferred maintenance at Jenny Barker and Plymouth. I can't tell you what happened. I can't tell you why. I was not here, did not know the circumstances. Dollar wise, it does play a little bit into the decision. It has to. On the other hand, it's not the only thing that there is out there to look at when you're looking at, do we close Jenny Barker? Do we close Plymouth, Gertrude Walker, whatever, if we close a school? This is, you know, there was a statement made up here about, do we care? Yeah, we care. My wife and I've had 7 children graduate from Garden City Community or Garden City High School. We have grandchildren that go to school here, so we care very much about this. And even if I didn't have children or grandchildren here, I care about the future of this community, the future of this state, and the future of this country. So that is not that's not part of the equation here at all. I do care, and I think everyone on this board cares, not only about what they're doing up here, but about the future of the community. So once again, I do have some concerns about closing the only 2 country schools we have and busing everybody all the students into Garden City. And I do have a concern, are we doing too much all at once here? This is a huge list here, whatever we do. And I'm not minimizing the work the folks have done because they've done a lot of work, spent a lot of time on this, but I'm just not sure I'm there.
This has been probably one of the most challenging things I have ever done in my time in education. 14 years in the classroom, teaching at a district level as well. This has been a very interesting time. Things that we've had to face. I am a person who has been called to build community and build people's lives and build circumstances and build everybody and take everybody into account. And I'm disappointed in some of the things and maybe the lack of lack of appreciation, I guess, the times that we've done. I appreciate all your comments. I appreciate your concerns. These things have been talked about. We have heard your voices. We have gone, we've asked questions. Staff has been very diligent in answering every one of our questions we've had. Anything that's been ever asked of any of us, we've asked those questions, and to my appreciation, I've gotten a resound answer to them, where we're gonna go. Now, we do not have all the answers. And some of that hinges on decisions that we have to make to go forward, because every decision breeds another decision that has to happen and another result. And so I have people that I'm connected to in every one of your schools and every one of these things in this community. And I love this community. I wouldn't stay here if I did not love this community. And so I want to see what's best, especially with 2 children in this community and a wife that teaches in this school system. I have a vested interest in every one of these buildings. And we do our best, even as a part of this community, to support every person in this community. And it's hard to do that. And when we're in opposition, we're not trying to work together. And we appreciate, and I love every comment that's been made. I love every person that's here. I will tell you, as an educator, years ago, my building was slated to be shut down. And I had the same concerns, and I had the same heart, and I had the same passion that you all have. And things changed in that school system there and when that played out. But I understand that there's tough decisions that need to happen. Change is messy in any circumstance, in any community. When we add a big plant outside of town here, big things change. You have to move a lot of dirt. You got to make a lot of mess. But everybody works together and we make it happen when we have positive growth. And so what we're seeing here, the task that we are laid out and have to deal with, I will tell you, I have seen in everything that I've looked at, every conversation I've been a part of, that I have no problem with the integrity of everybody in this room, and every administrator here. I'm just telling you what I've seen and what I've looked at, what I've heard, every conversation I've been on. I have the utmost respect for every member of this administration, as well as every one of these board members up here. And it is hard to just to deal with that and to reflect on that as someone who loves every aspect of this community and every person that's sitting in here. And so I want to at some point, a decision has to be made to go forward. And this is my heart. We have to do what's best for this entire community. And I appreciate every one of you, and I respect everybody, and I respect every aspect of this. One of the aspects when I got on here, someone said to me, do you know that Garden City School System serves an area the size of the state of Rhode Island? And I was like, what are you talking about? And I went and did my own research. And I found out that actually by square mileage, our school system serves an area the size of the state of Rhode Island. And that comes with immense challenges, immense complications, and things that not every one of us are going to like. And so we have to remember all of these things come into, and that's when I make a decision. I said this clear back from the very beginning. Every decision that we are going to make, every decision I will make is what's best for this entire community. Every person in this community. And there are times in my life where I've had encounters and decisions that I've had somebody help me make in my circumstance that I didn't appreciate at the time, but afterwards I look back, I can see that that was actually the best for me in my life and what was best for the circumstance. And so as we go forward as a board, whatever decision we make, I will always vote what's best for the entire community. And so that's just my 2 cents with that. And I appreciate Andy. Andy did a great job of everything that was said there, all the summary, all the things we've done. We have vetted everything that's ever been brought to us. We've asked for opportunities and questions and ideas and everything. And everybody that comes to us after they sit down and talk to us, just like Andy said, pretty much comes to the same conclusion. It's not fun, it's not good, but we have to do something to go forward and what's best for the long term for this community. And so that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. So You know, I've reached back to other school boards. For 20 years, this community has fostered the idea of grade reconfiguration. And I think if we took a poll and a vote, most of us, the majority, would vote that we want a K-5, 6, 8 model. Now the question is, how do we get to that? That's where the problems arise, right? The committee did exactly what they were asked to do. They were asked to evaluate this problem and come up with a solution, what they felt was a solution. And they've done that, and they've done a good job. Whether I agree with it or not, they've done what was asked of them. So we will vote to decide whether that's the right plan or not. I agree that if we do the grade reconfiguration, the middle school, KH is a must. We have to do that. We cannot add that growth to the current middle schools that we have. So if we as a community support grade reconfiguration, which I think we do, we have to pay for that. So how do we pay for it? Do we get a bond? You know, will you as a community support that? If we as a board come to you and say, hey, we need $13 million to add on to KH, and we want to add, and we have $3 million worth of repairs at these buildings, and would you vote for that as a community? I don't know. I mean, we just had people upset their taxes are going up, right? So it's a no-win situation. I agree. I feel we are biting off more than we can chew. I do not support closing the farm schools. I've voiced that from the day we started this. It's no secret. I think there is a better option out there. Do I have that option? I don't. But do I think there is one? Yes. I have some suggestions and ideas, and we'll voice those, but you know, Gertrude, so let me just step back. So we took the tour of these schools that we're discussing that's shutting down. And I was really hoping, my kids are out of school now. My son and daughter went to Plymell and my daughter went to Jenny Barker. I've been in them, but it's a long time ago. So I went to tour these schools and I was excited about that because I hoped that was going to give me some clear-cut direction on what needed to happen. Well, I walk in these places and I have this picture in my mind of, well, Jenny Barker, it's falling down, the roof's caving in, Plymell leaks water. It was pouring rain when we went there. Yeah, they need a new roof. But nothing I viewed was catastrophic, or I thought these buildings were, oh my God, we need to condemn them immediately. Yes, they need some love and they need some repair, but so does my house needs a new roof, and whose doesn't with the way we go, all right? So that didn't help me out except with Gertrude Walker. I challenge any of you to go into Gertrude Walker, call administration, get a tour of that building, and I bet you most of you will agree that we need to do something with Gertrude Walker. It is not conducive to learning. It's an old model in the 70s. I was floored. I've never been in that building. There's not a classroom in there. It's just big open area with classrooms in the open divided by bookshelves and lockers. Well, I'm not an educator, but I've been around them long enough to know that that's not a conducive learning environment. So what I do know is we need a new ESC. We have outgrown this building. They've had to kick tech out. They've had to kick people out because there's no more room here. So we have them spread out all over the district, working in whatever closet or office we can find for them to work out. So maybe an option is, do we turn Gertrude Walker, do we remodel it, turn it into a new ESC? It's a huge building that has a lot of empty property next to it that we could always expand and add on if we needed. Here again, that comes with the cost, right? There's a price tag associated with that. It's not workable and livable right now for our administration to move there. So do you take the money that we sell this building? You know, it is prime real estate. Can we get a fair penny for it? Is that the smart thing to do? You know, and then we take that money and redo Gertrude Walker. I'm a firm believer in that we need more early childhood. But we talked about it. I have friends of mine that have approached me. They can't get their kids into early childhood because it's full. You know, there's a lot of discussion at the state level right now. Are they gonna go all day kindergarten or is that right? All day kindergarten or pre-K? Pre-K, I'm sorry. Yeah, we went all day pre-K. Well, if that happens, we can't support what we have right now for early childhood. So we need another building for that. And that's where I'm at. That's one of my fear of closing these schools down is 5 years from now, we come to you as a community and say, hey, can you go ahead and sign this piece of paper and vote yes and give me $50 million so we can build on 2 more schools or whatever the case may be. I don't want that to happen. And I think I'm a little scared of that. This community is growing. It has grown. But explain to me, the numbers don't lie though. Our enrollment has been down every year for the past 10 years. Those numbers don't lie. That's the amount of kids we have in our schools. So that's a struggle. You can argue whose numbers are right, or RSP's numbers right, or the city's numbers, or whoever. I don't know that. I'm not the guy to decide the numbers, but I can look at that board right behind you and challenge you to look at every year enrollment is down. It is down. It is down. It is down. So this isn't something that we just decided, hey, let's do it. So it's got some challenges. I do agree there were some comments made about, is this the right time to do it because of a new superintendent search? I don't know. I don't know that. I personally, as a leader and someone in me, yeah, I would adore the challenge. If I was applying for this position, I'd say, bring it on. Let's got it. Will that deter an applicant? It may or may not. If it does, is that the person we wanted here anyway that runs from a challenge? I don't know that. You're right, and the comments were made. I was taking notes as people were talking. We have money. We're not broke. The district is not gonna go bankrupt tomorrow. We've been able to support staff as we talked in the budget. I really feel like this board and this staff is doing everything it can to support its teachers and our workers and our students. They got the biggest raise they've had in a long time. I've been on the negotiations committee for 2 years now. It's been nothing but the focus of that committee to take care of our staff and our teachers. And I think we're accomplishing that. And there's still more to be done but I think we're headed down the right road with that. We are still an agricultural community. I get it. We are. Which that does require some, does it require us to keep those farms? I think it does. Right now. Okay, I think we justify that. I do support, one of the greatest things I heard that come out of this recommendation is lowering our class sizes. We need to do that. I know a lot of teachers and we have classes that are overloaded, overload pay right now. We pay a lot of money in that. I do support that. I think that is a must that we should consider and continue to look at that for sure. But I just want people to respect the process. That's what this is. It's a process. We can agree or disagree and we can be mad or whatever. That's okay. I love the passion. People come up and talk and the phone calls. I've received so many phone calls and emails. Keep them coming. I love it. I don't shy away from it. You guys are very passionate. I love that. That gives me hope for our school district and our people in our community. That you guys aren't just like, I don't care what they do, whatever. It's not like that. We need to continue that. So I honor that. I respect that. And anybody who knows me knows I play with passion too. And I love it. So keep it coming. Respect the process. This is a fluid process and things are going to change all the time. And we as a district, I failed in communicating this plan properly. It has not been put out there like everybody said, probably the way it should. And I'll take responsibility for that. Everybody up here will. We can do better at that and we need to do better at that. somebody made a comment. I did ask, I was the one that asked for other solutions in the July 17th meeting. I did ask for that. I was hoping to get alternatives from the committee, option A, B, C, that kind of thing, and one that did, go with closing those schools. But I also respect the job that they've done because they did what they were asked. They chose to do that, and then that's the recommendation they came up. And I respect it. They're very smart. I have nothing but faith in Andy and what he does, and Robin and Nathan, and I know the hours that they spent on that, and I think it's only fair to respect that and honor that. That's all I have. Thank you. So, yes, listen, I'll take the questions and we'll answer, but
Point of public meeting, but excuse me, it's a meeting in public, but it's not a public meeting. We're not supposed to engage the public. If you have questions.
Offer them a solution so that, because I don't want people to leave here frustrated. So if they have questions or comments, can we offer them a way to do it?
They can bring it to Jennifer Ramos, which is here, board clerk, please, and or email an administrator, please. But it's a meeting in public, it's not a public meeting. So a point of order. That's where you go.
so if you have any questions, just call me. Okay.
And we'll try to get a FAQ going for them, but we can get a FAQ going, but please, I mean, Jennifer Ramos is here, she's the board clerk, she can write them all down, we'll try to configure the answer and get them to you. But
And I would say USD-457's website not only has all of our email addresses, but our cell phone numbers too. And I have told this to multiple people, faculty members. Anybody's welcome to call. I would welcome phone calls with anybody.
Oh, yeah.
So you have, there's a lot of opportunities to have direct lines of contact with any of us as board members, and please use them.
Robin was incorrect. She said everyone here has a job. I don't. I'm just talking. My information is on that website too, so.
No one calls him. So
Nobody calls me. I had 2 calls today. That's been it. I've had plenty of emails.
Okay, we'll move on to item I, open board discussions. I don't know what else we're going to talk about, but Mark, you're up.
Don't have a whole lot here, but I do appreciate the all the input we got, and you can definitely see there's some passion in the community, and that's a good thing. These things have been said previously, but people care, and that's good. You need to care. We all need to care about what's going on around us, what's going on in our community, what's going on at our school district. So I do appreciate all that. We care as well up here. I think all of us do. With that being said, I do appreciate the time and effort that everybody has put into this process. We're not done, because I've had that asked about, hey, the 2 phone calls I had today, is this done? No, it's not done. So again, you have information to call, email, and I'll tell you, you know, the template emails, the ones that say the same thing, I look at them. I'm not answering. I did it earlier in the year. I'm not doing it this time. 400 emails. I'm not going to do that. I figured that the people that really care about this are going to be here tonight. Will give me a call. Will give me a personal email that will really go into why they want to see what they want to see. So if, you know, that information's out there, you can email me, you can call me. Just because I'm retired doesn't mean I'm not doing anything though, by the way. So yeah, I'd encourage you to do that and stay with us on this process. So hopefully we'll get what's done, what is best for the students, the teachers, and the community, and the administration.
Had a great, it's been a great couple of weeks, getting to stand at the front doors. I stand at the front doors of KH and greet the kids when they come in. And it's been a joy to see smiling faces. Andy's now joined me there 1 morning a week. And just to be a blessing to see those kids and the smiling faces and just to appreciate what's going on, the positives in our community, in our schools. And so we do get very passionate about things that are bad, but we have to remember the things that are good as well and things that are going forward with that. So I appreciate all the staff. I know a lot of things were going on. I know there's a lot of things, moving parts behind the scenes that people are coming together with. I just appreciate everything that's going on, and I am excited about the future of USD-457.
I would just echo that. It's nice that school's in full swing. There's a lot of activities going on, and it's good to see our students compete and grow themselves academically. A lot of that's been great to see. I would like to, just say a couple things. In Dr. Dominguez's defense, yes, he did not choose to renew his contract here with USD-457, but Dr. Dominguez has come to work every day. He's done everything this board has asked. When we ask him to provide us information or respond to an email, or some of you email us, we send those to him. He responds. So I do want to say that Dr. Dominguez is here and he's doing his job. Is he perfect? None of us are perfect. He's doing his very best in the decision that he made to not renew his contract here. And we appreciate what he does. He communicates well with us board members. When we ask anything, we're asking anything of his administrative team, they respond promptly to us. So I do appreciate him, and I know it's a hard situation. He's in a tough situation as a superintendent that's on his way out as we have these discussions, but not one time has he told us that he wouldn't do that, or he wouldn't come to work every day, or he wouldn't put in the extra hours. So just want the community to know that about Dr. Dominguez. I want to say thank you again to the committee. I agree with Randy 100% that they've done what we asked them to do. We tasked them with continuing the conversation after the subcommittee. We formed another subcommittee, and our administrative team and these three have put in endless hours. Have we come to this conclusion, or have we come to the spot where we know what we're doing yet? No. And I think if you're patient with us and you allow us to work through the details, you allow us to continue to peel back the onion and continue to figure out what is best for the students of Garden City and what is best for the community. I think if you're patient, this board will get there. We just need you to be patient with us. We are not, we're not there yet. We still have a lot of work to do. We're gonna ask a lot of Dr. Dominguez. We're gonna ask a lot of his team still to get to where we need to be. But I do want to say thank you guys again. I know the endless hours you put in. I appreciate that greatly.
I think all of us up here, we all respect each other. We all trust each other. And we all know that we all want to do what's best for the community and for the district. We may have different opinions of how that needs to be and how that needs to look, but I do not have any doubt that everybody up here is here for the right reasons. I know Andy was targeted a little bit. I trust Andy completely. I have no doubt that when he says that he will not have a conflict, that is true. I know administration, some of them have been beat up pretty well and accused of this was their plan. Every question that I have asked and the board have asked, they have answered, and they are all committed to do whatever the board asks them to do. Sometimes it may not be the plan that they want, but they are supportive of what they are asked, and they have assured all of us that they will do what we ask them to do. I think they have, in addition to the 3 board members that have put in, they have put that many and more working to find some of the answers, to answer the questions, to find the ways to do what they would like the district to accomplish. So although we may have differing opinions, they need to be respected and not targeted, and their names dragged through the mud because they are doing what they were asked to do.
I too echo the sentiments that John had about Dr. Dominguez. I do feel like he's been unfairly targeted through this process. I've spent a lot of hours with Dr. Dominguez through this whole process, both before and after his decision not to renew his contract. And I haven't seen his dedication to this process wane at any point. I truly believe that he wants to see this, if this change is done, to see it be done successfully. And I believe, and this is not something he's ever told me, but I believe that he wants to leave that is the good work he did when he were here at USD-457 to see that through. So I want to, commend this board, as Randy talked about. I've talked to folks that have served on boards, and on this board in the past, going back a couple decades, I believe, when one of them served. And they said the same thing, that this community's been asking for grade reconfiguration since those intermediate centers were built in the 90s. And just the willingness to take this topic up and talk about it and iron out all the details that would really go along with it is not easy work. I think every single one of us knew we were taking up a very difficult topic, one that was not going to be universally liked. But the willingness to do it and put the hours into it and have this kind of discussion, and knowing that it's not an easy thing to do. And I just commend all of our board for being willing to talk about this. I appreciate everybody who's come to this meeting tonight. I hope you continue to engage with us. As we talked about, this is a fork in the road. We're, on the 26th, we're going to make a decision, or we're going to be asked as a board to make a decision as to whether we can continue this path towards assessing all the other things that are required to make a formal decision on grade reconfiguration, if any building closures that might come from it, or we can stop the process. That's the decision I think we are going to be asking ourselves on the 26th. And then ultimately there's a lot more that'll go on between now and probably February to get to that point of final decision. But I just want to thank our staff, Jessica Nothern, Drew Tone, Josh Kyman. They've been in every single one of these committee meetings. They put in, and Dr. Dominguez, they put in just as many hours as those three committee members. And so I commend you guys for that too. So thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, everybody's worked hard. A lot of people work hard. They'll keep working hard until we come to a solution or whatever decisions are made. I was happy to go to a football game. I'm glad football season started again. That was fun. I wish the outcome was different, but I did have a good time. It felt like football. So I was glad to see that, and good turnout. Back to school is going well, I think. It seems like everybody's getting in the groove and starting off the year right. So we need to just keep that up and go from there.
As I think Nathan or Mark said, 3 of us have been on this board since January 1st. And I don't know if you guys have ever been on a board before, but it takes a good 6 or 8 months to get your feet wet and figure out what's going on. And we didn't have that chance, so we jumped in and we got hit with this right away. And so that's been a lot. And maybe we didn't do it in the best manner because we're still learning. I figured out very quickly that a school is like a little town. It's not something simple. And I've been on many, many boards. This is more complicated than anything I've ever been on in my entire life. And add on top of that, we have an amazing attorney on staff, thank goodness, because there are so many laws and rules and regulations that we have to follow that I wasn't aware of as a parent or as a community member, a taxpayer, but now I know that there are sometimes things we have protocol we have to follow. We may not be able to tell you something. We may not be able to answer your question, not because we don't want to, but because we're legally bound not to. So, bear with us as we're learning that. I mean, poor Jennifer, sometimes I was speaking about, am I allowed to talk about this, So bear with that, and I appreciate Jennifer and the staff. Last week we had a meeting here. It started at 5 o'clock. They're scheduled for 1.5 hours, and I think we left here at 8:45. And staff was here, and I believe that it was that the day you started at 7 a.m. So they had a long day that day. So bear with us. I come from a family of very strong-willed people. I'm used to tough discussions, and I think we learn from tough discussions. If we all agreed, life would be a pretty boring place to live. But I believe they can be done in a civil kind of manner. And so I appreciate people that have spoke today that they spoke from their heart kindly and with concern and thoughtfulness for the people that they were speaking to. I agree with what the guys said. Dr. Dominguez has not stepped back one bit. As a matter of fact, he might have stepped forward. I mean, he's working his butt off to make sure that he gets us the information that we need. We appreciate you guys, and yes, our phone numbers are out there. Please call us. I would rather take a 30-minute phone call than have someone upset or not feeling like they know what's going on. So thank you guys tonight.
Dr. Dominguez?
Yes, community, thanks for being here. If you do have questions, you can forward to the leadership, or like I say, Jennifer Ramos is the board clerk. She's sitting right here. You can just give her the question. We'll try to get an FAQ going. Thank you, subcommittee. Thank you, board, for your commitment. It is absolutely needed. The school system is once and foremost the heart of a community. So that you board members do take the time, energy, and effort that you do, whether you're on the subcommittee or not subcommittee, definitely is put in high throttle extra time. We're in the big 3 A's, the academics, arts, and athletics time. So we've seen more kids. Leadership's been on every campus more than once. We've been engaging with the students, but getting to see the great things that are happening at the different campuses, which is always exciting. Multiple principals. I'd like to say all of them, but I haven't actually been to their campus when they're in real time, but spoken to all of them. And the vast majority have said this is the smoothest start to their school year that they've ever had. So in real time, we started working on that in November, getting ready for the next year. The that's built up to make it run smoothly is phenomenal, and want to applaud our teachers and our principals and then all auxiliary staff that helps it move, because there's so many touch points, the bus driver, cafeteria, nutrition, grounds, to make this system work. So very excited about the year, and we're just gonna keep moving forward. So thank y'all. Thank y'all a lot.
Item J, the next board meeting, the next regular meeting of the Board of Education will take place on September 26th at 5 p.m. in the board meeting room of the Educational Support Center here at 105 Fleming Street, Garden City, Kansas.
Mr. President, I move that, how long do we need for the person? Executive session.
20 minutes. 20 minutes.
20 minutes, okay. Mr. President, I move that we go into an executive session for the purpose of consultation with an attorney for the body or agency with which a deemed privilege and which would be deemed privilege in an attorney-client relationship. I'd like to invite Jessica Dollar and Drew Toe, Josh Guyman, Dr. Dominguez, and Jennifer Cunningham. And I would move that we go into position 855, returning here at 9:15.
Second that.
Been moved and seconded for executive session. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.